All right, let's graph y equals 1/2 sine of x minus pi over 3. So the first thing I've noticed is my amplitude has changed. My amplitude is 1/2. My b is 1, so my period is still 2 pi. Meaning that when I take my period and I split it into 4 pieces, the pieces are each going to be pi over 2. But the kicker on this problem is I have shifted my graph to the right, pi over 3. What that means is, normally when my period is 2 pi, my starting place is 0 and my ending place is 2 pi. But I am going to shift it right, so that means I'm going to add pi over 3 to the starting place, and I'm going to add pi over 3 to the ending place, meaning that my new period will go from pi over 3 to, well, okay, when I add these together, I'm adding fractions, so I have to have a common denominator, which would be 3. 2 pi becomes 6 pi over 3. 6 pi over 3 plus pi over 3 is 7 pi over 3. So my period is still 2 pi. I've just shifted it from 0 to 2 pi, to pi over 3 to 7 pi over 3. So the tricky part is when you want to split this up into your 4 congruent pieces. So there's a couple ways you can go about this. So normally it would be 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and then 2 pi. What you could do is you could just add pi over 3 to each of the pieces, because you're shifting everything to the right pi over 3. So you need to have a common denominator to add those fractions together. So for our first set, it would be 6. So this would be 3 pi over 6 plus 2 pi over 6, which would be 5 pi over 6. Then for the pi and the pi over 3, this would be 3 pi over 3 plus pi over 3 would be 4 pi over 3. And then for 3 pi over 2 and pi over 3, your common denominator would be 6. So this would be 9 pi over 6 and 2 pi over 6, which would give you 11 pi over 6. So when you go graph this, whoops, forgot to change the color. Oh, and I forgot to change it again. I'm not starting at 0 anymore. I'm going to start at pi over 3, then go to 5 pi over 6, then 4 pi over 3, 11 pi over 6, and 7 pi over 3. So this is a sine graph, so I started at 0. I'm going to go up and then down. But remember, your amplitude's not 1. Your amplitude is 1/2. So that means your max is 1/2 and your min is negative 1/2. So I'm going to go up to 1/2, down to 4 pi over 3, at 0, down to negative 1/2, and then back to 0. All right. What about y equals 2 plus 3 cosine of 2x? So my amplitude is 3. B is 2, right here. B is 2. So my period is going to be 2 pi over 2, which is pi. So when I go split that into my 4 pieces, each piece will be pi over 4. And then this 2 shifts my graph up 2. So what that means is, so my amplitude is 3. So normally I'd go from 3 to negative 3, but I'm going to shift everything up 2. So really, my max is at 5, my min is at negative 1, And then the middle is no longer at 0, the middle is at 2. So some people like to set up their trig graphing with like a dotted line at the top, a dotted line through the middle, and then a dotted line at the bottom. That's totally awesome and totally helpful if that's what you choose to do. Okay, so now I didn't shift this to the left or to the right. Also, I'm going to start at 0, and then my period is pi. So my pieces are going to go pi over 4, then 2 pi over 4 is pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and you're at pi. And then if we want, let's graph another period. So this would be 5 pi over 4, 6 pi over 4, which is 3 pi over 2, 7 pi over 4, and then 8 pi over 4, which is 2 pi. All right, for cosine graphing, it makes a smile. So you start at the top, and you go to the middle, and you go to the bottom, then you go back to the middle, then you go back up to the top. So it makes a smile. Positive, it's smiling. You go to the middle, then you go down the bottom, then you go to the middle, then you go back up to the top. So we shifted it up 2, we changed our amplitude, and we changed the period. Our next example is to graph y equals -3 cosine of 2x. So I notice that my amplitude is 3, b is 2, so that would make my period 2 pi over 2, which is just pi. So when I go split that into my 4 pieces, each piece will be pi over 4. I'm not shifting this to the left or to the right. I'm not shifting it up or down. So my amplitude is 3, meaning that my max is 3. And my min is -3. All right, so my pieces are each pi over 4. So I'm going to start with pi over 4. Then 2 pi over 4 is pi over 2. 3 pi over 4. And then 4 pi over 4 is just pi. So that's one period. I'm going to do 2 periods on this one. So this was 4 pi over 4. Now I'm going to do 5 pi over 4. Now I'm going to do 6 pi over 4, which reduces to 3 pi over 2. 7 pi over 4. And finally 8 pi over 4, which is 2 pi. The special thing about this problem is this negative leading coefficient. It tells me that my cosine graph is going to be flipped. Instead of it being a smiley face, it's now going to be a frown. So I'm going to start at the bottom and go up. So because there's a negative leading coefficient, my graph now looks like a frown. That was a bad graphing. But anyways, and then I'm going to repeat the period. So make sure you check for negatives because they should be filled in. Negative makes our cosine graph look like mountains. Looks like frowns. So sad. Alright, go ahead and pause your video. Try this one on your own. Graph y equals -3 sine 4x plus 1. Pause your video, copy down the problem on paper, and attempt it on your own. Alright, I notice that my amplitude is 3. B is 4. So my period is 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. So when I split that into pieces, or sections, it's pi over 2 divided by 4, which is pi over 2 times 1/4, which is pi over 8. So each piece will be pi over 8. And I'm shifting it up 1, and it's negative. Alright, so if I'm shifting my graph up 1 and it has an amplitude of 3, the max is no longer 3 and the min is no longer negative 3. If my max was 3 and I shifted up 1, it's now going to be at 4. So my max is at 4. My min is no longer at negative 3. I'm going to be at negative 3 and shift it up 1. So my min is at negative 2. And the middle is no longer at 0. I'm shifting it up 1. So now the middle is at 1. All right, my pieces are each pi over 8. So I'm going to start with 1 pi over 8. That was ugly, but you get the gist. 2 pi over 8 reduces to pi over 4. 3 pi over 8, and 4 pi over 8 reduces to pi over 2. So this is one period. Let's do another period. So this is 3 pi over 8, 4 pi over 8, 5 pi over 8, 6 pi over 8 reduces to 3 pi over 4, 7 pi over 8, and 8 pi over 8 is just pi. So cosine, this is sine. Sine, we're going to start in the middle. And usually we start in the middle, then we go up, middle, down, middle. Well, when the negative is in front of your leading coefficient, you're not going to go up first, you're going to go down first. So when sine is negative, you go down, middle, up, middle, down, middle, up, middle.